Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. In today's video, after weeks and weeks of testing, I'm going to be doing a full end-to-end review on the Engwe L20 2.0 folding electric bike. Now this particular bike is designed to maximize portability. Because it's a folding bike, you can store it in small places, you can throw it in the trunk of your car, you can take it into your RV, or basically anywhere you want to go to start your next adventure. But the question is the Engwe L20 2.0 the right bike to consider for your next e-bike purchase? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Now before we get too far, I do want to let you know that Engwe did provide me with this bike for review purposes, and as with all of my content, I want to let you know that all thoughts, opinions, and conclusions are my own. Now if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I document the testing process, so I'll post range test videos, hill climb test videos, all that fun stuff, so I'll be sure to include those in the links in the description below. So, without further delay, let's jump into the details. Now first and foremost is the unboxing and packaging, which is arguably one of the most exciting moments in e-bike ownership, is when you take your new bike out of the box for the first time. And I'll tell you what, Engwe did a fantastic job at packaging this bike. There were no scratches, dings, or nicks, or anything like that. It was absolutely in pristine condition. Now I will say they did use a lot of zip ties, and by a lot of zip ties I mean a lot of zip ties. But after a few minutes of bushwhacking through that jungle of zip ties, I finally unveiled the bike, which, as I mentioned, was in fantastic condition. So kudos to Engwe for getting this thing to me in tip-top shape. When it comes to assembly, the less that I have to do, the better. At least that's my preference. Assembly of the L20 2.0 was very straightforward. Engwe includes all the tools necessary to get you on the road as quickly as possible. Simply attach the handlebars, front fenders, headlight, front rack, which is optional, front wheel, left and right pedals, and the seat. All in, I spent about 20 to 30 minutes assembling everything. In terms of powertrain, the Engwe L20 2.0 comes with a 750 nominal watt motor, which is capable of cranking out 1125 peak watts of power and 75 newton meters of torque. Now I think it's really important to call out that competitors in this budget-friendly folding e-bike space typically include 500 watt motors, which don't have as much power, of course, as the 750 watt motors. So even though this is a 68-pound bike, it's actually got a lot of power for its size. Now powering that 750 watt motor is a 13 amp hour, 676 watt hour, 52 volt lithium ion battery. Seeing a 52 volt system is music to my ears, as many foldable budget-friendly e-bikes come with 48 volt systems. The higher voltage translates to more torque, improved acceleration, and less voltage sag as the battery runs down. That higher voltage is the reason why the L20 2.0 can maintain its speeds throughout most of its battery range, which is really important for those looking for a consistent riding experience, specifically around performance as you wear that battery down to zero. So if you're curious what the charge time looks like on this bike, it does come with a 2 amp charger. So at 13 amp hours, you're looking at about 6.5 hours from 0 to 100%. Now in terms of gearing, the L20 2.0 does come with a pretty standard 7-speed Shimano tourney gear set. It's nothing special. We see it on a lot of budget-friendly e-bikes, and it gets the job done. Right out of the box, the shifting is very smooth, very clean. You don't see any, getting caught up in between gears or anything like that. Really surprised that it's able to shift as well as it does, considering it traveled halfway around the globe to get here. And with the gearing on this bike, I found that I can comfortably ride around in pedal assist 3 with absolutely zero ghost pedaling. It's only when you get to those higher speeds, like the higher end of pedal assist 4 and going into pedal assist 5, that you start to see ghost pedaling, because this is a cadence sensor e-bike. Given that this bike does have a cadence sensor, all you have to do is get the pedals moving to get power delivered to the wheels. So unlike a torque sensor bike, which relies on pressure and force to those pedals, which translates into the amount of power that you're going to get out of it, cadence sensor e-bikes, as long as your pedals are moving, regardless of whether or not you're exerting any force, it will deliver power from the motor to those wheels. Now, of course, on this bike, you do have those 5 levels of pedal assist, level 1 being the least amount of assistance, and level 5 being the most level of assistance. Pedal 1, is really not much in the way of power being delivered, but once you get to pedal 2, you can comfortably ride up to about 12 miles an hour. Pedal assist level 3 will take you to 15 miles an hour, which I found to be very comfortable on this bike. Pedal Assist 4 will take you about 20-21 miles an hour. And finally, Pedal Assist 5 will take you into that Class 3 e-bike range, which is about 28 miles an hour. Now keep in mind, you'll be moving your feet to get up to those speeds, but if you want to ride that fast, where permitted, you can absolutely do so. So one thing I want to mention about the pedal assist system on this bike is that it is not adjustable. So the reason why I bring that up is when you go from pedal assist 2 to pedal assist 3, you can feel the acceleration kick in until you get to that top speed of the pedal assist 3 mode. Same thing happens from 3 to 4 if you're riding around in pedal assist 3 at 15 miles an hour and you switch to 4, that movement of your feet is going to get you accelerating pretty quickly up until you get to the maximum speed of pedal assist level 4, which is about 20-21 miles an hour. So for those of you looking for a bike that's got a little extra kick, the Engwe L20 2.0 definitely delivers. For those of you who are looking for some smoother transitions between pedal assist 2 and 3 and then 3 and 4, you can't really change that on this bike because that setting is not included in the menu system on it. And so it does take some getting used to. It took me, probably about 20-30 minutes of riding to get used to it, but now that I've got a hang of it, it's not an issue for me. And as with all cadence sensor e-bikes, there is going to be a little bit of a delay from when you start pedaling to when the motor actually starts delivering power. So if you haven't ridden a cadence sensor e-bike before, that is completely normal. So once you start moving your feet, it'll take a moment and that motor will kick in and deliver that power. Now when it comes to brakes on the Engwe L20 2.0, it does come standard with front and rear 180mm manual disc brakes. The 180mm discs are great, but I do wish Engwe included hydraulic brakes on the L20 2.0. More and more budget-friendly bikes are starting to include those hydraulic brakes, which, to be honest, are easier to actuate and apply more pressure to the rotors, translating into more stopping power. And more stopping power is especially important for heavier e-bikes. The good news here is that I found the manual brakes on this bike to have sufficient stopping power. Even when exceeding 30 miles an hour down a steep mountain road, the manual brakes on this bike were able to slow me down sufficiently. Budget-friendly e-bikes with manual disc brakes often have 140mm to 160mm rotors. Engwe's choice to use 180mm on the L20 2.0 was a smart one. Now when it comes to illuminating the road ahead, unfortunately a lot of e-bikes in the budget segment typically skimp on good lighting. The good news about the L20 2.0 is that it has a relatively good headlight that provides pretty decent visibility directly in front of you. Now, if riding at night is going to be a regular occurrence for you, I recommend picking up a handlebar mounted light for additional visibility, especially something that provides lighting not just directly in front of you, but to the sides as well. This bike is also equipped with a bright tail light and, drumroll please, a functional brake light. Nowadays, brake lights should be a standard, but unfortunately they're not. Thankfully, Engwe did the right thing by including one on the L20 2.0. Now, one really important aspect that a lot of people look at when shopping for an e-bike is going to be the range that the bike can get. Now, Engwe does claim that the L20 2.0 can get upwards of 80 miles on a single charge. And one really important thing to remember when it comes to range estimates that manufacturers claim is that those are theoretical range estimates that are based on riders of a very specific weight, riding on flat ground on a windless day, in 77 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. And so, any deviation from that is going to change the range that you get. For example, if you're riding in pedal assist 1, you can probably get that 80 miles. But if you're riding at the top speed of this bike, 28 miles an hour where permitted, you're not going to get anywhere near 80 miles of range. Now, of course, with all bikes that I review on this channel, I take them through a proper range test. During my range test, I rode the L20 2.0 primarily in pedal assist level 3 with some dabbling in pedal assist level 2. And over the course of 4 grueling hours of nearly non-stop riding, I was actually able to squeeze out 49 miles of range with a little bit of juice left in the tank. The average speed during that ride was 13 miles an hour and the elevation gain was 512 feet. 49 miles was really impressive, especially considering the 52 volt 13 amp hour battery. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I expected anywhere from 30 to 35 miles of range tops on this bike. So to my surprise, once we got past the 40 mile mark and 45 mile mark, I was like, my goodness, this thing keeps going. I was still in that last battery bar. And when I thought it was going to be done, it wasn't. This thing just kept going. And if you watch that range test video that I'll of course link in the description below, you'll actually find that I was complaining towards the end.
At this point,
I kind of want to go home, kick back, enjoy a glass of lemonade. Because it was for like 4+ hours in direct sunlight, no clouds. It was 100+ degrees outside. So at no point in any of my range tests that I've ever done was I hoping for the test to end as quickly as possible. And it eventually did. The battery bar started blinking at 49 miles or so. And so that's around the time that we stopped the ride. But I think there was still a little bit of juice going. So could we have made it to 50? Probably. Another really important performance stat that people look at when buying an electric bike is its ability to climb hills, which is especially important if you plan or maybe live in an area where you're going to be riding on a lot of hills. Because the L20 2.0 has a 52-volt system paired with a 750-watt motor with 75 Newton meters of torque, capable of cranking out 1125 peak watts, this bike excels at climbing hills. I took this bike to Phoenix's South Mountain Park, where I could easily scale 9.5 miles of incline, reaching upwards of 10% grades at times. And the beautiful thing is that I could do all of this in pedal assist 3, only needing to shift to gear 5 on 2 occasions. I had 2 more levels of pedal assist as well as 4 other gears in reserve during the duration of that ride. So if I needed that extra power, I could tap into it at any time. Now in comparison, I did take one of this bike's competitors, the Electric XP 3.0 Long Range Edition, up the same mountain, which also made it up without issue, but I did need to go into pedal assist 5 and leverage all gears during the effort. So the extra 250 watts of power that the Engwe L20 2.0 affords means I can scale much more intense inclines should I choose to do so. It's pretty impressive for a little foldable bike. If you plan on venturing out on long rides, think 10, 20, 30+ miles, a suspension can go a long way in ensuring maximum comfort. The L20 2.0 has a dual fork front suspension with lockout and preload adjustment. There's no rear suspension, but Engwe does include a suspension seat post and a spring-loaded bike seat to help absorb the impact of bumps in the road. The ride is very comfortable even when venturing off the beaten path. Now, one thing I do want to call out about that bike seat is that it is exceptionally comfortable for a stock bike seat. I've ridden a variety of e-bikes, and typically those stock seats are very uncomfortable, especially after like 30-40 minutes of riding. In terms of handling, the Engwe L20 2.0 is a very nimble bike. It does come standard with the 20 by 3-inch fat tires, which are smaller tires than your traditional bike. But that means that you're going to be a lot more nimble. You're going to be able to take tighter turns and cruise around through tight spaces a lot easier than you could with a bike with those larger size tires. So overall, very nimble bike. It's also very comfortable and very well put together. I'm actually really surprised by this. A lot of times in this budget segment, when you're using the throttle or accelerating with pedal assist, you find that you get some vibrations through the frame, through the components that hold the fenders on, and that's really not the case with this bike, so it's definitely a surprise to see. Also, in the hill climb test that I did, I was, riding down the hill after I scaled that 9.5 miles of incline, and coming down, going into some of those curves, I hit upwards of 32 miles an hour on that bike, and the entire time I felt completely grounded. I did not feel uncomfortable or worried at any point in time. The bike felt really well put together and like it had very good contact and connection, I should say, with the ground. So I felt 100% confident going into those curves. And of course, I'll link that hill climb video in the description. Now, one of the first things that you notice when you look at the handlebar area of the Engwe L20 2.0 is the color display at the center, which is really nice because not all e-bikes offer color displays. And this particular display is actually really easy to see both in the day and at night. And if you're riding around on particularly bright days, it's still very visible even when wearing polarized lenses. Now, if you find that the screen is too bright when riding around at night, you can actually go into the menu system and dial down the brightness. And accessing the menu system on this bike is really easy. You just hold down the plus and minus button, and once you get into there, you will see some additional functions. For example, you can go in there and set it so that every time you turn off the bike, it resets the trip computer. You can adjust that backlight setting, of course. And then another thing that you can do within that menu system is you can change your units of measure, so miles per hour or kilometers per hour. So aside from those select customizations, you're pretty limited on what you can change on this bike. For example, if you want to adjust pedal assist sensitivity, if you want to adjust pedal assist strength, if you want to set the maximum speeds of each of the pedal assist levels, you won't be able to make those changes on this bike. So I'm hoping that future iterations do give users the ability to do that. But in the meantime, if that's going to be something that's important for you, it's definitely something to consider. Now, the folding mechanism on this bike is pretty standard and actually very easy to use. All you have to do is, collapse the stem, lower the seat post, and fold the bike in half, and then you can throw it in the back of your car, throw it in your RV, or you can store it, in some pretty tight spaces. So me personally, I love to have folding bikes because it's much easier to take those around than worrying about bike racks and all that fun stuff. Now, if storage is going to be important for you, this bike does come standard with the rear rack as well as the front rack. That rear rack will support upwards of 25 kilograms, which is approximately 55 pounds. And then the front rack, I believe, will support up to 8 kilograms, which is about 17 to 18 pounds. You also have some other mounting options in different locations on the bike. So if you do want to add more storage, add bags, things like that, you absolutely have that capability. So after riding this bike over the last several weeks and putting it through a whole battery of tests, here are the things that I love about the Engwe L20 2.0. This bike has lots of power with that 750 nominal watt, 1125 peak watt motor. Really good power delivery. It's equally as fun to ride in pedal assist mode as it is in throttle mode. In fact, that throttle mode does give you a lot of acceleration and is able to maintain those top speeds of 20, 21 miles an hour. So really happy with the throttle performance and the overall performance of this bike. The next thing that I love about this bike is it folds very easily, and even though it's 68 pounds, it's pretty easy to lift up and put into your car. What some people do is they will buy, storage bins, 40, 50 gallon, storage bins from the hardware store, drop the bike in there and load that into the trunk of your car. Of course, you just want to make sure that you have enough trunk space to fit those bins, but that's another way of transporting this bike. Next up is the range. I was thoroughly impressed with the fact that I was able to get 49 miles of range out of a 13 amp hour battery. So very happy with the performance there. So if you're looking for a bike that gets, ample range and theoretical range is 40 plus, this could very well be the bike for you. And finally, on the things that I love is the seat. The standard seat, like I mentioned before, outperforms pretty much every other stock seat that I've ridden on. Very comfortable, really nice stitching on the seat. It's got suspension, and of course there's that suspension seat post that comes standard with this bike. Now for the things that I really don't like and I think could use some improvement. First is going to be the ability to customize the ride experience through the menu system. As I mentioned before, the customizations are very limited. It would be nice to be able to adjust pedal assist sensitivity and strength, so hopefully future iterations of this bike comes with that ability. The next thing on the list is going to be the handlebar grips. They aren't locking grips, they do slide around a lot, and what I did find is that once I got to like 30 miles plus, they became actually very uncomfortable to the point where I was adjusting my grips all the time because it was hurting my hands. So the grips are a little hard, they're a little rough on the hand, so that's something to keep in mind. Good news is you can swap those out with whatever, is comfortable for you. Next up on the list is going to be the strength of the transitions between pedal assist levels 2 and 3 and 3 and 4. As I mentioned before, this bike has a lot of power, especially given its size and weight. And those transitions between some of those pedal assist levels can be a little quick, and so you want to be prepared for it. For those of you who are looking for, a bike that's got a lot of power that gets up to speed very quickly, this bike absolutely does that. But for those of you that are looking for something, a little gentler in terms of acceleration, that could be a little surprising. It does take a little getting used to. But overall, I've put on, hundreds of miles on this bike. And it's been really a non-issue for me at this point once you get used to it. Finally, the last thing on my list of things that I think can use some improvement is going to be the location of the key to turn the bike on to unlock the battery. And I think this is kind of a polarizing topic because, some bikes, you put the key in the bottom. Some bikes, you put the key in the side of the battery. Other bikes, you put it in the handlebars. With this particular bike, you put it in the side of the battery, which is all great until maybe you're like me, you leave the key in there and you fold the bike. The end of that key hits the other side of the frame, and so when you're closing it, there's the potential to damage that key. So definitely recommend taking that key out, as you should, when you fold the bike, but it's something I want to call out because it's something I experienced. Nothing got damaged at all, but I can see where that could potentially happen. So, after going through all of that, what do I think about this bike? Well, I'll tell you this. I was pleasantly surprised with the Engwe L20 2.0. I wasn't expecting the ride experience that I got out of this bike, especially being, as of the filming of this video, a sub $800 bike. I did not have very high expectations, and to be honest with you, those expectations were completely blown away. This bike packs a lot of punch. It's got a tremendous amount of power. And to be honest with you, even though this bike weighs 68 pounds, it doesn't feel like it weighs that much because it has so much power. When you're cruising around on throttle only mode, it feels like a little mini motorcycle, which is not the experience that I get from some other folding electric bikes. So really happy with that. Overall, if you're looking for a bike that gets excellent real-world range of 40+ miles, if you're looking for a bike that can conquer steep mountains, and if you're looking for a bike that can zip around and not hesitate when accelerating, the Engwe L20 2.0 could very well be a bike worth considering, especially if you're looking at budget-friendly folding e-bikes. I honestly don't think you get more value for the dollar with any other bike on the market today because this bike is priced so low. At the current prices that it's selling for in the US, $799, and I think you can also use coupons, it's honestly a steal of a deal. Now, after watching all of this, you find yourself sitting there thinking, you know what, this might be the next bike for me. If you make the purchase using the links and the coupons in the description below, they help support this channel and actually keep the wheels moving on future reviews. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, whatever it might be, let me know in the comments section below. Happy to answer those for you. I'll also be including links to all of my testing videos in there as well, so if you want to refer to those, absolutely click on those. You can go watch them. And as always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.